It was a drizzly, overcast autumn morning in October. The day was cool, but not cold. My wife had set her mind to baking a fresh batch of breads that morning, and she needed some items from Aldi, a few of which were
mixed berry, raisins, and prunes, so we can finish the bread.
Not regular, but golden.
Yes, the one in the square box that's yellow.
What are you making anyway?
I'm making the rolls. And milk. Don't forget milk.
Milk, yeah.
So I can make waffles.
Almond milk. Yeah. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. You have the list?
Yes.
All right.
My daughter and I took a short trip to get it done.
You said it's to the front, to the left here. Do I have any of my sunflower seeds out yet? You know the kind guy. Oh, pumpkin seeds. There it goes.
You said
Sunflower seeds. I meant pumpkin seeds. Yeah. I'll get one of these for me.
Okay, you can handle that and paper.
It was time for another round of recording sessions for this very podcast, and an interview was scheduled later that day. I always get excited about new interviews because, I have to be honest, like all the projects I work on to the glory of Yah, this project is a labor of love for me. You're listening to Fruit Bearers, a living Hebrew production provided by kingdompreppers.org. I'm your host, Kingdom Prepper. This podcast will focus on the spiritual walk of those of you out there who are living the Israelite lifestyle, whether you were born Hebrew or Gentile. But more than that, it will detail how the faithful have been, or are striving to be, fruit bearers as they walk the path of righteousness toward the kingdom.
Shalom.
Shalom. How are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. A little nervous, but...
We turn to our next guest.
My name is Doryce R.
I don't know if you've heard past Fruit Bearer episodes. Have you heard any?
I've heard them all.
Oh, you've heard them all? Excellent.
I've been looking at your page for a long time.
Oh.
Got a lot of information. So it more or less, let me know that I am searching for the right information.
Oh, so are you right now feeling like you have found a place that you feel comfortable with, and that Yah has led you in this walk? And
yes,
you do.
Yes,
excellent.
I do.
You are not
really
alone.
Emotional because so I can start my whole story. So I was born in Los Angeles, California, to two parents, my mom, my dad, Tony and Mary. I grew up in Watts, California. We grew up in the area where the Watts riots were in the 60s. My grandfather was a minister. He's passed away. We do have a church that is established in Watts, and it's still there today. I do have family members that attend. I did attend as a child through my grandparents. My mom and dad were, young when they had us. So they didn't really, my dad grew up in the church because his father was a pastor. My mom, on the other hand, she did not. So when I was growing up, I always said I had a heaven and hell side to my family. And so my grandparents did come by and pick us up. It's like 6 of us. Total, my dad has 8 children, but it's 6 of us that were by my mom. Going to church as a little girl, I knew about the Creator, the Christ, and the image that I saw was of a white man. But when reading the Bible, you do see the parts where it talks about, what he looks like. So as a child growing up, we grew up in the projects in the Nickerson Gardens, the Jordan Downs, all around LA area we lived. I went to many different high schools. I actually graduated from Crenshaw High School in 1980. I remember growing up singing a lot of the Negro songs about lift every voice and sing. In church programs, we were doing things like singing songs like that and more spiritual songs. My grandparents were very instrumental in that part of my life, our lives, my siblings. My dad, he was a rolling stone, I would say. My mom raised 6 of us pretty much by herself and without any assistance. And from her upbringing, I learned a lot about living and budgeting and taking care of kids and on welfare, and just her being my mom and being protective, and just seeing her being protective. On my grandparents' side, they were more subdued, calmer, still loud, funny, hilarious, just a good time all around. Both sides of my family, it was my mom's side, they drank and smoked and did drugs, and so you had a choice when you grew up. You kind of knew, either you could go that way or you can go to the church and, become spiritual and read your Bible. So I grew up in that kind of atmosphere. And in the 60s, my dad was also a part of the Sons of Watts of LA. It was like him and some friends initiated a rehab program for felons who got out of prison or people who were jailed and got out of jail and didn't have anywhere to stay, need rehabilitation, and they pretty much started that. My dad did. I remember riding around in a car and seeing my dad's face on the bus because he was into a lot of politics at the time, but then his life changed when, drugs started being flooded into the neighborhood. And so life changed, period, growing up in LA. My teenage years were just spent going to school, being a reader, wanting to be into politics, wanting to be married and have a family, just, educating, going to school. Throughout high school, I had a summer job. After school, I worked. I went to Saturday school for a bank teller because what I saw my mom go through, being on the county, she had a boyfriend that we didn't really care for, the 5 girls. So some of us experienced some molestation, but, I think we got through it. But he ended up leaving because whenever him and my mom would get into it, we would help my mom, and he, would always tell the police, I can't fight her and all those kids. And, my boyfriend at the time, when I was a teenager, I ended up marrying. We had a child. But to go back to my childhood, I knew that there was something different about life in general, but I just lived my life like the best I could. I have 3 children, ages 38, 31, and 25. They all have different fathers. They're like spread apart. But to go back to childhood, my boyfriend at the time, he wanted to sell drugs, and I didn't want a part of that. So that was my husband that I married, so I divorced him. And looking back, it was better for me to have done that than to stay in that lifestyle that he wanted to live in. I can see that now, but at the time, I didn't know. I just knew that I didn't want a part of it. But now I see that it was better that I did make the decision that I did for my daughter's sake and for my sake. My siblings are wonderful. One sibling is deceased, my oldest sister. I have a brother who is in New York. He has a different mom. He's a professional dancer. He dances for Alvin Ailey, and he's been doing that for the last 20 years. And I work at the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I am a jailer. I've been doing that for the last 20 years, but before that, I was a bank teller. No, I worked at the courthouse, Inglewood Court. And then before that, I was a bank teller. So I've only had 3 major jobs in my lifetime. And as a teenager, after high school, I got the job at the bank. And then I proceeded to move on up to the court and now at the sheriff department. And it's been a steady job, so I haven't had any major issue, setbacks in my life. I've had relationships that didn't work out, marriages. So I've been married at least 4 times, but I'm not married at the present time, single. And I have 3 grandchildren. Soraya is my oldest. She's 11, and that's from my oldest daughter, Crystal. And the 2 grandsons that I have, who are 2, and his name is Joshua, and then Jacob is going to be 4 in November. His mom's name is Brittany, and she named them those names. And when she did, I didn't give her clues. I didn't ask her to, but she did. And in my heart, it was like, wow, does she know what she's doing? And I told them as they get older, the one that's older, he understands. I said, your name means something. I said, and grandma's going to teach you what your name represents. Me learning more about who Jacob and Joshua was is like eye-opening, like, wow. So at this point in my life, I would say 3-4 years ago, I turned my TV off, started looking up information, started watching videos, and then I started seeing more videos talking about who the true Hebrews were and how the information really resonated. Like, we are here in America with no name. They've called us names, bywords. Like in the 60s, you would see when they would say African American, then colored. And then I'm wondering, well, why are our names changed so many times? Why does it change? And then I find that because of the scripture saying that they will call you bywords, it was like, that's what they do. So, in wondering, why can't anybody else see this? Why can't, my uncle who's a pastor see this? Why isn't he teaching us this? And so then I started to really get into the word and research and watch more videos and take notes on what they would say and go research the words and verses and learning what precepts are and like, what? I never knew this. I'm about 57 now. I should have learned this way before now, way before now as a child growing up when I did learn about the books of the Bible and, the Moses and everyone. I should have learned, that they were a people of color and know that, that's my ancestors they're talking about. And so in my heart of hearts, I know that I have to teach my grandsons and my family this information because it's going to be detrimental to their upbringing to know who they are and whose they are and how to be in this world and how to be able to treat people and learn and reach people and let them see that your spirit is good and that you're a humble person, and they can come to you and get information and you can help them because other than that, they're not going to know. And so in my walk, I've changed.
To listen to the full audio of this podcast or to download a free MP3 version, visit our website, kingdompreppers.org, by clicking the link in the description. And if you're striving to bear fruit for Yah and would like to be featured in a future podcast episode, write us through the site using the contact form at the bottom of the Live in Hebrew section and request a Fruit Bearers interview.